The night on Valathra was quiet for the first time in years. The thunder of cannons and the screams of dying machines had faded into distant echoes. Only the wind moved across the burnt plains, carrying the smell of smoke and iron. Sergeant Ethan Ward sat near the wreckage of his damaged armor, his body aching with exhaustion. The Threx Queen lay beside him, her breathing shallow but steady. The soft blue glow that came from her skin was dimmer now, fading slowly with every passing hour. He checked his wrist screen. The signal from command was still lost. The battle orbiting the planet must have jammed the entire network. He looked up at the stars. Human ships were still there somewhere, locked in the upper atmosphere, trying to claim what was left of a dead world. Ethan felt a wave of emptiness inside him. After everything, victory felt meaningless. The Queen's voice entered his mind again, weak but clear. "You are still here, human soldier. Why do you not leave?" "Can't," he muttered. "Armor's almost dead. Beacon's offline, and if I leave you here, you'll die alone. You care for the life of your enemy. That is not common among your kind." Ethan almost smiled under his cracked helmet. "I guess I'm not common." He removed his helmet to breathe the open air. The cold wind stung his face. It had been months since he had felt real wind. The Queen turned her golden eyes toward him, studying his face as if trying to memorize it. "Now I see what lies behind the armor," she said softly. "Not a monster. Just a man." "Yeah," he said quietly. "Just a man who's seen too much." She reached out, touching his hand with her slender fingers. Her skin felt like cool metal wrapped in silk. "Do humans always fight for survival?" "Always," he replied. "We started on a small world that tried to kill us every day. Storms, hunger, disease, we fought them all. I guess fighting became part of who we are. And now you fight us." He nodded. "Because we thought you were trying to wipe us out." The Queen closed her eyes. "I wanted peace. My generals wanted power. I tried to stop them, but they silenced me. When I woke again, my empire was already dying." Ethan looked at her with a mix of anger and pity. "Then all this war, these deaths, it didn't have to happen." "No," she said, her voice shaking. "But once fear begins, it spreads faster than light." They sat in silence for a while. The only sound was the wind whispering through the ruins. Ethan knew she was fading. Her life signs were unstable. He had to do something, anything, to keep her alive until help arrived. He opened his armor panel and rerouted what little energy remained in the core into a power cell. The cell glowed faintly, enough to stabilize her for a few more hours. When he placed it against her chest, her glow brightened a little. "You share your strength with me," she said softly. "Why? Because it's what soldiers do," he said. "We protect life even when it's not ours." She smiled faintly. "Perhaps your species deserves the stars after all." Suddenly, his visor picked up a new signal. Multiple contacts approaching from the east. The icons flashed red. Enemy movement. Threx survivors. Ethan cursed quietly and reattached his helmet. "We've got company." He stood and raised his rifle, scanning the horizon. Shadows moved through the smoke. Tall figures with sharp limbs and glowing eyes. They were Threx soldiers, heavily armed and angry. They stopped when they saw their queen alive beside a human. The lead soldier hissed in shock. "Human filth! You dare touch the queen?" Ethan tightened his grip on his rifle. "Back off," he said. "She's hurt." The soldier raised his weapon. "Release her or die." Before Ethan could respond, the queen's voice echoed through the air, calm but commanding. "Stand down." The soldiers froze instantly. Even wounded, her authority was absolute. She slowly lifted her head, her voice strong again. "He saved me. He carries no weapon against us now." The Threx soldiers hesitated. Their leader trembled, torn between loyalty and fury. "But my queen, he is the reason for our fall. His kind destroyed our cities." "Enough," she said sharply. "Your blades will not bring back the dead. This war ends here." Ethan kept his weapon lowered but ready. He knew one wrong move could start another fight. The queen looked at him and spoke in his mind again. "You must leave this place. My guards will not harm you if I command it." He shook his head. "I'm not leaving without making sure you live." She stared at him for a long time, her golden eyes reflecting the firelight. Then she nodded slowly. "Then we both will try to survive." The Threx leader lowered his weapon reluctantly. "What would you have us do, my queen?" "Help the human repair his beacon. Send his message to his fleet. Tell them the queen of the Threx offers surrender and peace." The soldiers looked stunned. Surrender was a word they had never heard from her before. Ethan almost couldn't believe it either. You're ending the war? He asked. Yes, she said softly. It must end before the universe forgets mercy. With her command, the soldiers obeyed. They began working to restore a broken comm tower nearby. Ethan joined them, linking his armor systems to boost the signal. It was strange, humans and Threx working side by side after years of slaughter. No one spoke much. They didn't need to. Every one of them knew what they had lost. As they worked, Ethan noticed one of the Threx soldiers watching him carefully. The creature's eyes were full of confusion, not hate. Maybe this was how peace started. Not in speeches or treaties, but in quiet moments when enemies realized they could build something instead of destroy it. Hours passed. The comm tower flickered to life at last. Ethan keyed in a distress signal. This is Sergeant Ethan Ward, survivor of the Velethra ground assault. I have priority information for command. The Threx Queen is alive. She wishes to negotiate peace. I repeat, peace. Static filled the air, then a faint reply broke through. Ethan, is that you? This is Admiral Corrin. Your signal's weak. Did you say the Threx Queen is alive? Yes, sir, Ethan said. She's with me. She's not our enemy anymore. There was a long pause. Then the Admiral said, Understood. Hold position. Extraction team en route. Do not engage further. Ethan sighed with relief. Copy that. He turned to the Queen. Help's coming. You'll make it, perhaps, she said quietly. But even if I do not, my people will see what I saw in you. A human who chose compassion over conquest. She looked up at the rising dawn. The fires on the horizon had faded, replaced by soft light. It was the first sunrise Velethra had seen in years. Our world lives again, she whispered. Even in ruins there is hope. Moments later, the sound of engines filled the air. A human dropship descended through the clouds, its lights cutting through the smoke. Ethan waved his arm beacon. The ship landed nearby, its ramp lowering. A squad of armored soldiers rushed out, weapons ready. Hold fire, Ethan shouted. She's not a threat. The soldiers hesitated, confused by the sight of their sergeant standing beside the alien queen. The squad leader stepped forward. Command wants her alive. Bring her aboard. Ethan helped the queen to her feet. She leaned against him weakly as they climbed the ramp. The human soldiers stared but said nothing. For the first time, they saw an alien ruler not as a monster but as a living being. Inside the ship, med units surrounded her, scanning her condition. Ethan stayed beside her the entire time. When the engines roared and the ship lifted off, she looked out the window at her ruined world below. It is strange, she said. I ruled this planet for centuries. Now I leave it in the hands of the ones I once called enemies. You're not losing it, Ethan said softly. You're giving it a chance to live again. She smiled faintly. You speak like a leader, not a soldier. Maybe I'm both, he said. Hours later, the ship docked with the human flagship orbiting above Velethra. Ethan and the Queen were escorted to the command deck where Admiral Corrin waited. The Admiral was a stern man, tall and gray-haired, his uniform spotless even after months of war. His expression tightened when he saw the Queen. So it's true, Corrin said slowly. The Queen of the Threx stands before me. The Queen inclined her head with dignity. I do not seek forgiveness, Admiral. Only an end. Ethan stepped forward. Sir, she's telling the truth. Her people were betrayed by their own generals. She wants peace. Corrin studied them both. You trust her? With my life, Ethan said firmly. There was silence for a long moment. Then the Admiral nodded. Then humanity will listen. The following days were filled with tense meetings. Representatives from both sides gathered aboard the flagship. The Queen's surviving commanders were contacted. The first words of peace in generations were spoken, not through translators or weapons, but through mutual exhaustion and understanding. Ethan stayed near the Queen through it all, acting as the bridge between two species. At night, when the negotiations paused, he would stand by the observation window staring at Velethra below. It still burned in places, but there were green patches too, forests trying to grow again. One night, the Queen joined him, her glow soft in the darkness. You have given my world a second chance, she said. He shook his head. No, you did that. I just refused to shoot. She looked at him quietly. When you removed your armor to face me, I saw the truth of your kind. You hide your hearts behind metal, but you still feel. That is why I cried. I saw that under all your strength, humans still remember what it means to care. Ethan didn't know what to say. He just stood beside her, watching the sunrise spread across the planet below. The light reflected in her eyes golden and gentle. Later, when the peace treaty was signed. In the last days of the Velathra campaign, the sky was never dark. Fire and light streaked across the upper clouds as human ships and alien war carriers traded energy blasts that turned the night into a storm of color. The ground trembled under bombardment, and smoke rolled across the endless plains where two species fought for a world neither truly wanted. Sergeant Ethan Ward moved through that chaos like a shadow of iron. His combat armor, dull gray and scarred from years of battle, hummed quietly around him. The suit's power core gave off a low vibration that matched the rhythm of his heartbeat. Inside, the air smelled of metal and burnt ozone. Ethan had learned to live with that smell. It meant the systems were still working and he was still alive. The visor projected data across his eyes. Temperature, radiation levels, troop signals. Most of those signals blinked out one by one. The rest of his unit was gone. He pushed forward through broken walls and the ruins of an alien city. Velathra had once been beautiful, its towers made of crystal and energy lines glowing blue in the dark. Now the towers lay shattered, their light fading like dying stars. Ethan's mission had been simple. Extract a group of missing colonists rumored to be trapped in the lower levels of the Threx Citadel. But after the ambush, the rescue had turned into survival. A blast shook the corridor behind him. The shockwave threw dust into the air and fragments of alien glass cut across his armor. His HUD flashed warnings, but the systems held. He raised his pulse rifle, scanning the darkness ahead. The only sound was his own breathing echoing inside the helmet. He moved with slow steps, each one deliberate. He had learned long ago that fear could be managed if you kept moving. His radio crackled. "Sergeant Ward, this is command. You're deep inside the Citadel grid. We've lost your beacon." The signal was faint. "We can't get a read on the colonists. Proceed with caution. Extraction window closes in 90 minutes. Copy that," Ethan replied. Continuing search, then the line went dead. Static filled his ear. He was alone again. He reached an enormous chamber with broken pillars and a collapsed ceiling. Sunlight from the burning sky filtered through the gaps above, mixing with blue fog that came from shattered alien power cores. It looked like light and smoke were dancing together. In the center of the room lay something large, a structure made of black stone and silver threads pulsing faintly. His sensors registered a life form inside. Ethan aimed his rifle, moving closer. The structure looked like a cocoon or a throne, he couldn't tell which. The life signs were weak but steady. His visor adjusted the readings. Humanoid size, heavy bioenergy, unknown DNA pattern. Definitely Threx. He remembered the stories about the Threx Queen, the unseen ruler of this entire species. Few had ever seen her and lived. He hesitated. His orders were clear. No unnecessary engagement. But something about that faint pulse drew him closer. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe just the human instinct to know the face of the enemy. He reached out and touched the surface. It felt warm, almost alive. The armor sensors sparked as they met a field of static energy. Then a light spread across the cocoon, opening slowly like a flower in reverse. Inside lay the queen of the Threx. She was taller than a human, her skin a soft silver blue that shimmered under the dim light. Her eyes were closed, her breathing shallow. She didn't look like a monster. She looked tired, fragile, almost peaceful. The machinery around her pulsed weakly as if trying to keep her alive. Ethan's rifle lowered a little without him noticing. Then her eyes opened. They were bright gold, deep and calm. For a second they stared at each other. Two survivors in the wreckage of a world destroyed by both their kinds. Ethan's armor recognized her instantly. Signature match, high-value target, elimination authorized. The rifle beeped, ready to fire. But he couldn't do it. A voice echoed inside his mind, not through sound, but through thought. "Human soldier, you survived." The tone was soft, sorrowful. "Why do you still fight?" Ethan froze. "You can speak my language?" he asked out loud, though his voice came out rough and distorted by the helmet filter. "Not your words, your mind," she answered. "I reach through what remains of my strength. I do not wish for another death." He took a cautious step back. "You led the invasion. Millions died because of you." "No," she whispered into his thoughts, "because of fear. My generals feared extinction. They told me conquest was survival. But I see now, they were wrong." Her voice trembled with something that sounded almost human. Regret. Ethan kept his weapon ready, but he didn't shoot. He could see the weakness in her movements. She was dying already. Killing her would change nothing. He looked around. The entire chamber was built like a sanctuary, not a command center. Ancient markings ran across the walls, stories of stars, birth, and loss. Maybe this had been her refuge, not her throne. Another explosion echoed from above. Dust fell in clouds. Ethan knew he couldn't stay much longer. He checked his armor's map again. The path back was sealed. The only way out led deeper underground. He had one chance. Find another exit before the citadel collapsed. He turned back to the Queen. If you can walk, we need to move. Her eyes softened with surprise. You would help your enemy? You're not my mission, he said. But if this place comes down, no one makes it out. That includes me. She tried to rise, but her legs shook. Ethan cursed under his breath, then reached forward. His armor's servos groaned as he lifted her. She was light, far lighter than he expected, her skin cold against his metal gauntlet. For a moment, she rested her head against his shoulder, whispering something in her language that he didn't understand. They moved through the corridors, half lit by dying energy lines. The Queen's glow provided faint illumination, casting soft blue light over the broken walls. Sometimes she spoke, short phrases, memories of her world before the war. Ethan listened in silence. He didn't know why he cared, but something about her calm voice eased the tension in his chest. At one point, she stopped and looked at him. Your armor hides your face. Is it your true form or just another shell? It keeps me alive, Ethan said. Breathing, radiation, shrapnel. This armor saved me more times than I can count. Yet it keeps you apart from others, she replied quietly. Even now, you fear to show who you are. Ethan had no answer. He just kept walking. They reached a junction where the tunnel split. His scanner picked up movement ahead. Threk soldiers. 6 of them armed and alert. Ethan set the Queen down gently and raised his rifle. Stay behind me, he said. The fight was quick and brutal. Plasma bolts hissed through the air, smashing into walls and scattering sparks. Ethan's armor absorbed 2 direct hits. Warning lights flared red across his visor. He moved like a machine, precise and efficient. 3 Threks fell before they even knew what hit them. The rest tried to flank, but a burst from his pulse cannon ended it. Silence returned to the corridor. When he turned back, the Queen was watching him, her expression unreadable. You kill so easily, she said softly. He lowered his weapon. That's how we survive, and yet you spared me. He didn't respond. He just helped her stand again. They continued through the tunnels until they reached a large chamber filled with glowing pillars. The air was heavy with energy. In the center stood a control node, still active. Ethan moved to it and tapped his wrist pad, trying to connect. The system resisted, then flickered to life. A map appeared, a full layout of the citadel, including an emergency escape shaft leading to the surface. Got it, he said. There's a way out through here. But before they could move, the floor trembled. The citadel's upper levels were collapsing. Chunks of debris fell, smashing into the pillars. One hit the Queen's side, knocking her down. Ethan caught her just in time, pulling her close as the dust filled the air. The shield generators in his armor flared weakly, struggling to protect them both. When the rumbling stopped, he looked down at her. She was breathing fast, her glow dimmer. You still alive? He asked. Yes. But not for long, she replied faintly. My body cannot last outside the energy cradle. Ethan shook his head. You're not dying here. Not after all this. He carried her through the collapsing tunnels, guided by the map on his visor. Every step was harder than the last as his power reserves drained. The armor was heavy now, every joint screaming from overuse. The Queen whispered things he didn't understand. Words of her people, perhaps prayers. He just kept going. They finally reached the shaft. A narrow vertical tunnel rose to the surface, filled with smoke and light from above. The lift was destroyed, but Ethan's armor still had climbing thrusters. He secured the Queen against his chest and activated the boosters. Flames shot downward as they rose slowly through the shaft, dodging falling debris. Halfway up, the thrusters sputtered. Power low. He gritted his teeth. Come on, come on. The armor whined but kept moving. When they finally broke through the top, the air was bright and filled with ash. The battlefield stretched around them, silent now except for the distant rumble of thunder. The war was ending, but not in victory, only ruin. Ethan set the Queen down gently on the cracked ground. She looked at the burning sky, her golden eyes reflecting its light. So this is the world we made, she whispered. Fire and silence. He removed a small medical pack from his belt, scanning her with the automed tool. "Your vitals are dropping," he said. "If I can get you to command, maybe—" "No," she interrupted So.